Welcome back. Today turned into hell in a handbasket, didn't it? Welcome back to the Funker 530 live show. Still don't know what we're going to call it. It's not really going to matter today because we've got a lot of important shit to talk about. Let's just put it that way. Hit the like button, though. That's always important because it helps us. It helps us get the stream out there. We're going to be here doing a little bit different of a show tonight than we normally do. Normally, we focus very intently on footage that we have, context to that footage. Today, I felt that it was important for us to kind of gather as a community around the table and have a discussion about what's happening right now in Poland. It's obvious based on the title and on the thumbnail what we're going to talk about tonight. And it's actually probably going to be a pretty short stream because simply this show is never and will never be to speculate. This show will always be to present what we know from a context perspective, from a fact-based perspective, on whatever situation it is we're discussing. So, with that in mind, still, it's important for me to understand who's out there, for all of us to understand who's out there. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're chiming in from. It's always good to see. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for the night off last night. I appreciate it. There's not going to be a sponsor for this night's show, or tonight's show, I should say. This night. Sounds like such a dork. Except for ourselves, right? If you guys are interested in supporting us directly, small team of veterans, U.S. and allied nation veterans, go get a Funker Premium account. You get an ad-free experience over there along with a host of other perks on Funker530.com as well as on the app. How are we doing? Checking in on the chat here already. Thanks, guys, for being here. Appreciate it very much. It is a non-stream night for us. I do know that. I need to get my support side set up, so let me log into the alerts and stuff. While we're getting started, breathe. That is going to be the theme of the night. Thanks for that, Jordan. That's going to be the theme for tonight. Breathe, calm, calma, relax. All right. This is a very serious topic, and we're going to try to do that justice. But I'm also going to hopefully help you understand that even if the worst is realized in this situation, that doesn't necessarily mean the worst. But we'll talk about that more here in just a second. I've got my alerts. There are my alerts. Welcome back. Now I see you guys. Sir Corax, thanks for becoming a member. Appreciate it very much. IK, thanks for the 5 months. Adrian, thank you for the 8 months. Northern British Columbia, welcome in. Texas, welcome in from Texas. How are you? Padre, thanks for the $20. Hey, dude, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel, or Light Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel, excuse me, here did ballistic missile defense in Korea 2012. Just to prepare you in case you say something incorrect. Hey, man, I'm not going to be talking about, ballistics, about, the differences in missiles. You want to know why? Because that's not what we specialize in. I do my very best, and most folks that are here and that have been here for a while will tell you I do my very best not to talk about things nor answer questions that I don't have answers to. I'm going to be focusing on a few very basic facts because I have been tweeting quite a bit about the information that's flowing. There's a lot of jump to conclusions mats being used right now about the origin of the missile or missiles. I've seen both singular and plural. About the intent, about, even if Article 5 is invoked, what that does from, a U.S. or allied nation perspective, what Article 4 means, and how Article 11 ties into all this. Those are the things that we're going to talk about tonight, much less so the things that we don't have an answer to. We're going to leave the missile analysis to the experts, to the battle damage assessment to the experts. I'm not going to break out any kind of protractor or anything. We are going to do some measurements tonight, but it's going to be of distances on a map. You catch my drift. I don't want to beat that dead horse. Welcome in. Let's start to talk. For those of you that might not be aware of what has occurred, a missile or missiles has fallen on a small farm village in Poland. Now, the initial knee-jerk reaction from everybody was, Russia has attacked Poland with missiles. We have no idea what the origin of these missiles is, but we'll get to why that's pertinent and matters here in a second. I want to first focus on the village, where exactly it is, help you understand the geography of this. And we're first going to use the Institute for the Study of Wars map, like I always do. That'll be, really familiar to those that have been here on the stream for a long time. And then we're going to use Google Earth. We're going to measure some distances from Ukraine, from other key population centers. An important context for this, and most of the Funker community is pretty well in tune with what's happening, But an important context to this is today, over the last 24 hours, eclipsed in October the massive amount of missile strikes that Russia levied against Ukraine. There were many more missile strikes that took place today, including critical infrastructure, population centers, etc. Now, Ukraine claims to have shot down more than 70 of those, but the amount of missiles fired from Russia, which includes, everything, just about everything across their arsenal, is well over 100. Right, that's important context as we take in the information that's available that we have on hand right now. So let's take a look at a map here. I'm going to put myself in the low right screen so you don't have to look at me. We're going to go low left. That way you have the extra context here. So this little brown dot out here to the far west, just about 7 kilometers or so, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to measure this specifically shortly, from the Ukrainian border is the location of the missile strikes. Now that's actually quite a stretch from Russia. Just about anywhere you measure that. Not a stretch from Belarus. I've seen some reports saying, Belarus shot this. Nothing like that is confirmed whatsoever. I don't want to cover a whole lot on the campaign map elsewhere, but we'll scroll in here and you'll see a general proximity of that location to the Ukrainian line. I'm going to bring myself up to the left here. Pronouncing the village is something entirely separate. You guys have been here long enough to know that I don't pronounce things very well. I do my very best, and I try to do justice to pronunciations. And if I get one wrong, I get one wrong. But we're not even going to give that a shot. But I can tell you it's a very small village. It's not necessarily a military target. If I understand correctly, at the location, it was a grain storage or grain processing type location. 2 people were killed, right? That is one piece to this that is probably blatantly obvious to you at this point, but it's not something I've said yet. 2 Polish citizens were killed when a missile or missiles struck this little area, this small farm, grain-oriented area in Poland. All right. Now let's head over to Google Earth. We're going to measure some distances where exactly this village is in relation to Ukraine's border, in relation to maybe Lviv, as well as the closest distance from Russia. So give me a second to bring myself back up and bring up Google Earth. I've already got it pulled up, so I'm already ahead of the game here. All right. F11. And here we go. Ready for a cool thing to happen here? Gotta love Google Earth. All right, it's going to try and do a spinny around here, but we're not going to let it. Now, and you guys are welcome to help me out with the pronunciation on that. Let's grab our measurement tool and see if we can't hit the border. So here's our Ukrainian border. I lost my dot. Here's our Ukrainian border. We're just about 9 kilometers on a straight line. You guys can't see that yet. Give me a second. There you go. About 9 kilometers on a straight line from the Ukrainian border. And then if we were to remove that and maybe take it out to Lviv. Lviv was targeted today with Russian strikes. Waiting for the map to populate. Well, we can go to Lutsk. About 103 kilometers. We'll undo that, and we'll take it all the way back up to Russia. So you got Belarus here, and then to Russia's border, 592 kilometers. Now, just quite a few of Russia's capabilities can reach that far, including the KH-55, the KH-101s. We are well, even if we stretch all the way out to the opposite side, over into Belgorod, we are well within targeting distance of KH-55s there, or excuse me, of at least KH-101s. I don't recall what the maximum distance on KH-55s is, but we can look that up. The most important part is that everybody kind of has a strong understanding of where this took place, its relation to Ukraine, how close it is to the border, how far it is from Russia. That's the first thing that I wanted to look at, and that's the first thing I want us to talk about in the chat. All right, we're going to get to the other stuff here in a second. Checking in on the chat here. Funker, 6-year-old witness reported seeing 2 aerial objects and explosions. Yep. Yep, tracking. I'm gonna explain to you why there's a question around missile versus missiles here as soon as we get into some of the statements made by Poland. There's a reason that I'm covering things in the way that I am. Definitely seems way too convenient. I say false flag. Ukraine stands to gain much more from this than Russia. They don't want NATO getting involved, which Zelensky's been begging for. Okay. Padre, thanks again for the 20. Sir Korax, thanks again for becoming a member. Hit the like button for me. We're going to get into some of the meat and potatoes here. Now, Poland made a statement not too long ago. This was within the last hour ago. We're going to take a look at that statement here. I'm going to read it word for word for you, as though you can't read yourself. I can't read. On November 15th, 2022, another hours-long massive shelling took place of the entire territory of Ukraine and its critical infrastructure by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. We talked about that. At 3:40 p.m., a Russia-made missile dropped on the village of that place in that district, in that province, and resulted in death of 2 civilians of the Republic of Poland. Therefore, Minister of Foreign Affairs, that guy, summoned the ambassador of the Russian Federation to Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs and demanded immediate and detailed explanation. Let's focus on some key words here. A Russia-made missile. Russia-made. Why is that important to talk about? Well, this is actually the catalyst for me wanting to go live tonight. This was the catalyst. I originally wasn't going to because we are not a news team. We are a combat footage documentary team. We document combat footage. But we do have to keep a pulse on the context surrounding things. And we're going to take a look at the footage here in just a moment of the strike location. We've been covering combat footage now for 15 years. That's what we do. We don't do news. But those words were the catalyst for me going live. Twitter erupted, and I mean absolutely erupted, in Poland has confirmed that these missiles, or that missile, came from Russia. No, they have not. In fact, Poland has very explicitly stated that there is nothing to indicate the origin of the missile. Nothing to. Russian-made doesn't get us far beyond the manufacturer at all. There's a lot of back and forth going on right now of whether or not this was an S-300, a KH-55, an X-101. If it was an S-300, the indications are that it could essentially have been Ukraine attempting to shoot down one of the 100-plus missiles that originated in Russia that are striking Ukrainian population centers. Again, I am not taking away from the gravity of this. I'm presenting the information that we have that's available. Words matter in a statement like this. Poland's leadership knows that. So they chose their words very carefully. A Russia-made missile, not a Russian missile. Those would have said very different things. Those would have meant very different things. It also is singular. Now, it could be singular for one of two reasons. One, the most obvious, is that it was just a single missile that hit. Two, they could only be speaking to the missile that hit and killed 2 of their civilians. I want to pause there for a second. Check in on the chat. Rick, thanks for the $20. Dems dragging attention from Trump's announcement set to take place sometime within the next hours. This would have more gravity than President Trump's announcement. That, you know, I'll always be honest with you guys about how I vote. I've talked about that before. I'm not going to tell you who I vote for because it's not your business. But I voted Republican this year during midterms, right? But this has more gravity to it than probably anything Trump's about to announce. I'm sorry, it does. You know, thank you very much for the 20. I appreciate that. It's 9 p.m. Eastern time. No, it's not. It's 7:44. Keyword is dropped, not struck. Dropped on the village. That That's another good word. Words matter. Words do matter. So I have been a part of teams that write statements like this at the strategic level. I can tell you that every word was picked apart by 15 people before it ever made the light of day. I'll give you guys a second to take that in while I check in on the chat here. All right. SVO Shark, thanks for the 5. Just let me watch F-22's murder things for the love of God. Well, you know, as cool as that might be to watch, that's probably a path to some really shitty times. Just going to put that out there. I appreciate the $5 very much. Nolan, thank you for the $1.99. They did not claim it was launched from Russia. Correct. What I'm speaking to here is the jump to conclusions, Matt, that a lot of people use this as a confirmation that Poland has said it was from Russia. Right? That is not what they said. In fact, they were very explicit, and I did not link this one, but their president was very specific to say, we have no indication of the point of origin. I've been trying to keep up and tweet as much of this stuff out. Thought I was keeping up with it well, but figured we'd go live to talk about it more. Now, Ukraine has obviously stated that Russia fired the missile. Zelensky actually announced that nearly immediately after it happened. But what's interesting as well is Russia essentially says, we didn't have anything to do with it. I swear that Ben Affleck's Jack Ryan went through this same situation. I don't know if you guys recall that iteration of Jack Ryan. That's what comes to mind here. I wanted to take a look at some of the NATO treaties, or the NATO articles, the articles within the North Atlantic Treaty. North Atlantic Treaty being the document that is behind the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. There are 3 articles that I really want to talk about. Of course, the one that was thrown around most rapidly and in almost knee-jerk fashion was Article 5. Article 5, the collective defense article, essentially, is attack on one equals attack on all. A lot of people, from just a general, basis of ignorance, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that in quite the most fundamental meaning for the word, just from a position of not knowing, believe that Article 5 effectively means that we just go to war. That's not exactly the case, and that's where Article 11 comes in. We're going to get to Article 4 here in a minute. Just give me a second. Stand by. All right, I might have to adjust the overlay on this just a little bit because the text is offset to the side. Actually, I think I can fix this way. Nope, sure can't. So give me a second to adjust the overlay. That's what I want. There we go. So let's read through this. This is on NATO's website and gives you the verbiage in the articles. So while it's there, I'll go ahead and speak to it. What Article 5 essentially does, it does not mean automatically that everybody goes to war. That's not how it works. What it means is it removes the restrictions from using military force. Under most circumstances, you can't just use military force to do whatever the hell you want to do. That's not how it works, right? And by joining NATO, you have agreed to this treaty. So, Article 5 allows you to forego any of those restrictions that would, under normal circumstances, be in place if the member state, the individual member state, determines it to be necessary for the security of the victim member, right? So in this instance, should Article 5 be invoked, then each of the member states would ultimately determine what the appropriate response would be for this situation. And in that circumstance, they can choose to use military force up to and including a declaration of war. Pausing there for a second. Article 39, Zelensky versus Putin in a boxing match. Dude, I'm no fan of Putin, but I got to be honest with you. If I'm not mistaken, that dude's like a BJJ champion or something. I don't know who I'd have in that. Nebulous 5, thanks for the $5. If, that's a big if, it was an intentional strike by Russia, do you think it has to do with the G20 summit? We're going to get to G20 here in just a minute. There are a lot of coincidences that are taking place. We're also going to talk about FTX. So, a lot of weird stuff happening today. Today went to shit pretty quickly, you know. For those that aren't familiar, I actually spent my day in a recording studio for the new TV show that's coming out. I came out of the recording studio and had a bunch of messages like, and it all went to hell in a handbasket. Dude already said it was a one-off event, kind of downplaying the severity of the incident. Rick, thanks for the 20. All right, let's talk about Article 4. Now, excuse me, I don't want to get to Article 4 yet. I want to talk about Article 11. So, theoretically, what would happen if Article 5 does end up getting invoked? You know, and I'm going to focus on the context specific to America on this. And forgive my ignorance. I'm happy to say when I'm ignorant to something. I don't know your current constitutional practices or policies or what your road to war looks like. I only know ours. So I'm going to use the context of America for this. America. What would end up happening if Article 5 were invoked is based on Article 11, which states, and I'm going to quote here, its provisions carried out by the parties in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. What would need to happen is Congress would still have to approve any level of military force being used, right? That would still have to happen. Now, people might be wondering, well, you know, we kind of just charged into Iraq and Afghanistan without Congress ever approving that. Here's the argument that the executive branch was able to make at the time, that there was a specific and direct threat to the citizens or territory of the United States. When in that instance, the executive branch has powers that will allow it to use military force. Biden and his administration would have a hard time making the immediate argument without the approval of Congress. Whether or not Congress would approve, that's where we start to get into ifs and buts. But the United States administration would have a hard time making the argument that this is a direct threat to United States territory and citizens in order to use military force, regardless of the treaty, without congressional approval. Now, every president since the NATO treaty was signed has essentially reaffirmed that we will adhere to our agreement in Article 5. But Article 11 ultimately says it is the duty of the member states to go through your own constitutional processes to uphold any agreements in NATO. Pausing here for a moment. Putin's like 70 now, barely locked a shot of vodka. Yeah, that is another piece to that pie. You know, maybe 20 years ago or something, but nobody knows if he's like sick anymore. I'm going to turn some music on so we can bring the mood up a little bit. Free corn pop. NATO's not going in over this. That's actually going to be a conversation topic that we have in a little bit here. Article 4, bro. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, man. All right, let's talk about Article 4. Okay? And why does Article 4 matter in the context of, maybe Article 5? Or not even necessarily in the context of Article 5. Article 4 essentially is bringing everybody to the table, right? Everybody come, we need to have a chat. Invoking Article 4, which Poland has done. The conversations are set to be started in the morning, and that's why I wasn't going to stream tonight, is there are going to be things discussed tomorrow, and I don't have all the answers for you guys, right? I don't consider myself an expert on foreign policy. I don't consider myself a Polish expert, Ukraine expert, Russian expert. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but there's too much that is information that is people are using, once again, jump to conclusion mats on, Article 4 says we will bring all 30 member states to the table and we'll have a discussion about whatever topic, under most circumstances, it's state security, that we want to. Well, Poland has invoked Article 4, which will bring all 30 NATO member states to the table where they can discuss the missile or missiles that fell on and killed 2 Polish citizens. What Article 4 is oftentimes used for? Let's back up. The last time Article 5 was invoked was on September 11th, 2001. Article 4 has been invoked, I want to say 7 times, up to and including Turkey invoking it, relative to terrorist attacks, but it has been used and is used quite often. In fact, in 2014, Poland invoked Article 4 when Russia and the Little Green Men initially invaded Ukraine. What it can also be used for is to notify other NATO member states of intent. So say, for instance, you've already made up your mind and you know that you're going to walk across the room and punch some dude in the face. You can bring all your boys to the table and say, hey, guys, this is what I'm about to do, just a heads up. So Article 4 isn't necessarily just from a decision-making perspective. You can use that as an official notification process for other NATO member states. Now, Biden has been on the phone with the Polish president. Zelensky's been on the phone with the Polish president. If I'm not mistaken, the British prime minister has as well. NATO member states are talking, right? So there's already some kind of an elitist behind the scenes knowledge base of what's going to be discussed there tomorrow. But I do expect additional information to come out tomorrow, which we will have hopefully available to us before we start the stream. Biden about to go live, emergency meeting. Okay. I'm going to need a link to that because I think we're going to watch that live here. Let me see if I can't find that without us getting slapped for copyright. If there's a mod in the chat that happens to be able to catch that, or if somebody catches a link to that, let me know. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it. Boy868B, thanks for the $20. Appreciate that very much. Deathwing Elite, thanks for the $1.34. Joseph Janik, thank you for the $5. Just got a new job today after 6+ of unemployment, and this happens. Guess my first paycheck will go to a hazmat suit. Calm. Relax. Congratulations on the new job. That's a huge deal. Enjoy that. For those of us that have the opportunity to work, thank you guys for giving me an opportunity to work. Make the best of it. Here's what's likely to happen. And I know I said we're not going to get into what ifs, man, but there are a lot of folks that have that exact same question. Additional arms are going to be moved to Ukraine. Right? If dart to dartboard, guys, right? I talk about that all the time. I don't know what I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Nobody knows anything right now. The only people that do is whoever flipped that switch and pushed the button and watched the trajectory of that rocket or rockets, missiles. Excuse me. I know there's a difference between rockets and missiles. We catch shit for it all the time. Thank you very much. More music, please. Lower on the volume, though. Got it. Here you go. Tim, thank you for the $5. What was Polish air defense doing? Aren't there a lot of Patriots? Well, that's one of the reasons that we took a look at an interactive map, right? Let's look at distance here. That's a key question because it's one of the first things that came to mind for me. But if you think about the travel speed of something like a KH-55, X-101, KH-101, whatever it might be, and the distance from Ukraine, right? Now, those Patriots, those missile defense batteries that are in Poland are designed essentially to stop at the border, right? They are not allowed to cover area in Ukraine. That would be a bad idea, okay? So with the distance that we're looking at here, it probably didn't have time to react. Now that is a speculation, but it's a great question. Has the Funker 530 team thought about setting up a Telegram channel? We have. The problem that we have with that is managing and maintaining it. managing and maintaining it. We're a very small team, and we're kind of strapped on duties and responsibilities at the moment, but we are scaling. And we've thought about having a Telegram channel to really share all of the stuff that we find, because not everything is safe for the app. Unfortunately, we still have to play within the boundaries of Google and Apple when it comes to the app. Now, we're able to do things with a little bit more flexibility because it's still our app, right? But there are still some requirements that we have to abide by. I do believe there's some tracking on this thing. Too many NATO systems in Poland not to know where this came from. So that is one of the things. I'm gonna burn my own Twitter here. I actually tweeted about that, right? We're in my notifications here. How do I get to my profile? I don't know how to Twitter. I don't know how to. But that's one of the things that I talked about. Is a lot of people are saying, things akin to, well, it's Russian made. That means it came from Russia. Well, almost everything that Ukraine has came from Soviet Russia. It's been like a whole narrative conversation that we've had since February, right? So that doesn't actually tell me anything. We need point of origin analyses, right? Now, say for instance, they do go from a BDA perspective, the experts that are on the ground in Poland right now taking a look at this and find that it's an S-300, right? Either Zelensky's informed or otherwise that it did come from a Ukrainian launch site. Well, what's the context surrounding that? Even if it's an S-300 that somehow had a point of origin, I don't know, maybe Transnistria, right, in Moldova to the south. There's so many questions and not a lot of answers and a lot of speculation, and that's not really going to be helpful. What I think people need to do right now is calm down. Padre, thanks again for the 20. Point of origin, so infrared to detect launch. Then system tracking, various through integrated air missile defense and NATO. Patriots are point defense and not area defense, by the way. Okay, thanks for that. Is this the Biden live? Oh, God. What just happened? Is that what that is, Jordan? See if I can't get to that really quick. Shoot me a DM with that, buddy. There's Mosin. Thanks, buddy. Emergency roundtable with world leaders. All right, we've got that pulled up, so hopefully we'll still be kicking when that goes live. Oh, it was streamed 40 minutes ago. That wasn't live. All right, that's fine. We'll move on. Where was I? Oh, I wanted to actually take a look at what we do here, which is footage. So let's take a look at the best footage that we have of the impact site. It's coming up for you guys now. Since I screwed that up, we'll put it on the other side. One more time. Very little video of the site right now. It ended suddenly. Okay. Mosin, if you're out there and you don't mind, keep an eye, buddy. And if we're still live when it happens, then we'll bring that back up. All right, music back on. Matter of fact, I'm going to put this in the lower right. I'll put that in the top. Connor, thanks very much for the $9.99. Checking multiple sources to fact check. Polish PM stated this missile being a single possible accident. Correct. Yep. And we did take a look at that, at some of the Polish statements that have come out so far. NATO sentry birds were up, should be able to backtrack. Should. A lot of questions right now. Yep. Calm, lads. Not everything since 9/11 has been a false flag. Probably an accident. Still wouldn't have happened if a country wasn't being invaded. That's an important thing to talk about, right? So regardless of the intent or origin of the missile, it's important to understand that none of this would have happened had Russia not invaded. Now, you can walk that dog all the way down the rabbit hole into something akin to, well, if NATO had never pushed its border, stop it with the non-essential vitamin stuff. All right. What's most likely? I know I said we weren't going to get into most likely and otherwise, but what's most likely is that this is an accident by either Ukraine or Russia. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. That is the most likely COA, or most likely scenario, not COA. What's unlikely is that Russia would waste a minimum $1 million if it's a KH-55 or up to $13 million missile on a field, right? For really no positive gain, And I recognize that Russia has historically really been somewhat indiscriminate in their targeting population centers with BM-21 grads and magnesium incendiary munitions. But from the flip side, right, it's always good to look at an alternative point of view, even if that alternative point of view is counter to your beliefs, right? I believe that Ukraine should have the ability and be provided an opportunity to push Russia out of Ukraine. I've been very clear about that. But on the flip side, the biggest beneficiary to this will ultimately be Ukraine, and it's undeniable. What's most important right now is that we wait for that information before jumping to demand Article 5 invocation, before demanding that, somebody pay for something that we don't know what happened. That's not going to be helpful. Universal, that's kind of what I was just speaking to. Thanks for the $10. Any chance Ukraine dropped the missile on Poland to invoke a reaction from NATO against Russia? I don't know. Right? If it's determined to be an S-300, that's where that question becomes more relevant. Now, if it's determined to be like a KH-55 or a KH-101, one of those other systems, Ukraine doesn't have those, right? So its point of origin can really only be in one location, or from one general location. Russia's a very big area. With that in mind, let's take a look at some things. Let's take a look at some imagery of the missile itself. So there's been a lot of Twitter experts. I'm not going to include who each of these are and what they've done because to be honest with you, I don't know their backgrounds and I don't want to perpetuate it. Here you go. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to go full screen here. So on the top, these are S-300 fragments from Ukraine, okay? The bottom here is a fragment that was identified at the point of impact for the missile. Again, S-300 being an anti-air system that's very commonly used by both Russia and Ukraine. Out of all of those question mark systems that are being used, it's the only one that Ukraine has access to. Now, we just took a look at the crater, and the S-300 doesn't have a very huge payload. It's designed to knock stuff out of the sky, not necessarily destroy something on the ground. That being said, it has been used for ground targets. That's been happening from Russia for quite a while. So there is somewhat of a precedent for that to happen. Let's take a look at another one. Coming up for you now. Just give me a second. Guys, once again, please do tap the like button for us. This is more of a discussion type stream than our normal, presenting you footage. There's a lot of questions, a lot of what ifs. I know you have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions, questions that are going to be relevant for my family, myself. I have questions about, the families of to find answers for the families of these Polish citizens that were killed. But nobody has those answers right now. Not even the Polish have those answers. S-300 range is 120 kilometers. Correct. Yep. There would be nowhere in Russia, nowhere in Ukraine. So that's key. if it is determined that this missile is an S-300. All we know, all Poland has released is that is a Russian-made missile. Russian-made. Both the S-300, the KH-55, KH-101, X-101, whatever you want to call it, are Russian-made. If it's determined that this is an S-300, there is nowhere in Ukraine that Russia is that they could have launched that. Now, again, you've got support structure in Transnistria, which I would assume that we would be able to see that the missile came from Transnistria based on, point of origin type analyses. You've got Belarus to the north, which is within 120 kilometers, I believe. So the missile type, once that's confirmed by experts that are on the ground, is going to tell us a lot about the origin of, and I don't mean the origin from a manufacturer, I mean from a launch perspective of the missile. This one here. Show you this image. So once again, fragment of a 5V55 from the S-300. And on the right, the fragment that was found in Poland. Padre, thanks for the $9.99. We, the United States, would know if Ukraine launched that missile. You're absolutely right. I would assume that we would. Chandler, thank you for the $10. Thanks for keeping a level head throughout all this speculation. It's difficult to not speculate. And, of course, I have my own internal speculation. Right? I'm doing my very best not to let that bleed out because all I really wanted to do was go live, talk about the information that we have at hand, the information that's been officially publicly released. But it's really difficult to not delve into what ifs. Appreciate the $10. Universal Wisdom, thanks for the 10. Again, I think we fielded that question already. Dane, thank you for the $10. Thanks for the coverage. Of course, it's my job now. Thanks to you guys for allowing me to do this for a living and talk about these things. I don't claim to be an expert. I do my very best in almost all circumstances to try and cut right down the middle where at all possible. America's favorite Brazilian, thanks for the $2. Biden's emergency is ice cream and sleep. Connor, thanks again for the 10. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any. Real Caliber, thank you for the 5. B Knight, thank you for the 2. I think I'm caught up. If I missed it, guys, I do apologize. It is just me running all the alerts, saying the stream and such, and it's a $20 problem on a $5 budget, so I appreciate your patience with me. Hey, Ronnie. Hi. Hey, Thomas. How are you? Drop in the chat if you're just chiming in with us. Let us know where you are. I want to throw up a poll here. This poll is designed to get an honest opinion. It is not designed, and I understand that by asking the question, you are at a foundational level, seeding doubt. I trust me, I get it. But there is a lot of evidence thus far that the missile that impacted, or at least parts of a missile that originated from an S-300 system, which Russia would not have been within the distance to use, are in Poland right now. So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to start a poll. Now, we're not going to get into the conspiracy levels of this. Did this country launch it to force this country in? But I'd love to get the Funker community's opinion on that. Again, this stream is designed less to be bringing you some kind of a breaking news. We're not a news team, right? We designed the Funker News Network name to be a play off of CNN because news in order to be news nowadays, you got to have an agenda and a spin, and that's not what we do. We try to provide you context, around footage. The best piece of footage that we have is, what was that, a 5-second video of the point of impact? So again, just here to gauge the community's feeling on this. And if you're new to the Funker 530 community, we are situated around our website and our app, funker530.com, where you can watch raw footage from any conflict or use of force incident across the globe. We've been doing that now since 2007. Overwhelming Russia so far, 49% to 32%. How many votes? 807 votes. Vote on that poll, please and thank you. All right, let's, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to bring up another thing I wanted to take a look at here. Give me a second. Some of this stuff I'm capturing in real time too. And what sucks really hard is Twitter historically has actually been a great resource for video, for us to watch. All we're getting right now is memes, and it's so disappointing. 1,000 votes, 1,066 votes. Very, very heavily weighted right now. It's a good image of the site. Clutchy, thanks for that. Got that one from you too, buddy. We've got another bit of footage that I wanted to pull up here. This is what I was looking for, Clutchy. So you came in clutch. Of the impact. I need to fix my overlay now, so be patient with me. Thank you. I jacked it all up so we could review that article piece, which we are going to go back through, guys. Remember, there are going to be people that are joining the stream a little bit late. I want to make sure we're covering Article 4, Article 5, Article 11, those relevant and pertinent articles that are being talked about so much that are important to understand from a contextual perspective. Let's take a look at this while we're talking. Now, this is reportedly video of the arrival, or just after the arrival, I should say. Thanks for the support that keeps coming in, guys. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for the 5ZD. I'm at the Artemis rocket launch right now. If I can snag a rocket engineer, scientist, I'll ask him if you have opinions, analysis about this incident. That'd be cool. Real Caliber Colt, thanks for the 5. Word is the rocket struck an AO that had NATO training less than a week ago. Interesting. Okay. That's news. That one would be news to me. So what he is essentially saying is that location NATO troops were training at a week ago. That provides some context, right? Now, we can use a jump to conclusions, Matt, and we can say, well, that means that Russia did it to target a NATO training site. That's just context. That's arrow in the quiver. An important one. Good find. 12 Yako, thanks for the $5. Thanks for going live and providing info. Twitter blew the F up, was driving me nuts. There was, again, one catalyst for me going live. I wasn't going to, because I'm not a news anchor. I don't pretend to be a news anchor. We go live and we talk about footage. But there was one thing that drove me to go live tonight. Let me just get that pulled back up, and we're gonna rehash a couple things, because I'm sure there have been new folks that have joined the stream. So where'd that go? I think I dropped it. I'll just pull it up on my Twitter profile. It was this statement. And don't worry, I'm gonna read you a translated version of this, right? This statement specifically that came from Poland. Now let's go. I'm just gonna go back to my Twitter with you guys watching, because I have a translated version of this. There are a couple words that I want to point out, and one that you guys actually pointed out. This is why we do this stream. It's supposed to be a discussion. Now, I wish I could keep up with the chat and have an individual discussion with each of you, but it's community roundtable, if you will. So that being said, if you're being a dick in the chat, This is America. I'm American, and your First Amendment, right to free speech does not protect you in the chat. It protects you from prosecution. So the mods are going to slap you in the PP and send you home. All right. We're not here to do that. But let's talk about a few key words in this statement that came from Poland, because when this hit the waves, I don't know, an hour and a half ago, there are a couple words in here that made everybody believe that Poland was acknowledging the origin of the missile. Those words specifically are right here. Russian-made missile. Twitter erupted with, Poland has acknowledged that it came from Russia. That means we need Article 5. That's not what that means. Not even in the slightest. That means that the origin of manufacture is Russia. Everything that's being used in Ukraine right now under, arbitrary percentage, dartboard, is of Soviet Russian manufacture. That does not give us any information about the point of origin, right? Not even a little bit, right? The biggest question is, was it an S-300 or was it, again, KH-55, X-101? I'm using those as a specific example. I know there are other platforms. I don't claim to be a missile expert from Ukraine. Now the other one, missile, singular. There's a little bit of back and forth right now on whether or not it was 2 missiles that impacted or 1. Poland uses the singular missile. That could be one of 2 reasons. One, in my mind, at least, it could be a myriad of reasons. One, it could be that they're using the singular missile because they've conducted a preliminary analysis and find there to only be 1 missile. Or 2, they could only be referencing the missile here that killed 2 civilians, that killed 2 Polish citizens. They said they were talking about Articles 4 or 5. None of them have been implemented. Let's talk about that. Let's go back to the articles. We're going to turn music on. I'm going to check back into the chat while I get the articles pulled back up, and we're going to have to fix the overlay again because NATO's website is shifted off to the left. Here we go. You guys ready? So let's go back to this one. Let's talk about, we'll start with Article 4, because there's a piece to this that I didn't talk about just yet. Article 4 is essentially everybody come to the table, right? Everybody come here. We gotta have a talk because somebody is threatening my way of life. That's ultimately what Article 4 is of the North Atlantic Treaty. Okay, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is the organization that you align yourself with when you sign the North Atlantic Treaty. Under most circumstances, Article 4 is invoked when there's a threat to territorial integrity, to the sovereignty, safety of a state. Poland last invoked Article 4 in 2014. The reason they did that, obviously, is little green men running around, eastern and southern Ukraine. Little green men being Russia. Really doesn't matter how you look at that. That's what it was. Article 4 has been invoked, if I'm not mistaken, 7 times in the past. I got to turn the music off, guys. I can't do it. I can't think. I'm too stupid to have music playing and talk at the same time. Article 4 has been invoked 7 times, right? Even Turkey has invoked Article 4 to bring everybody to the table to talk about terrorist attacks. But Article 4 could theoretically be considered a path to Article 5. And the reason is it's also been used to declare an intent. So bringing all 30 NATO members come to the table. That's happening tomorrow. Bringing them all to the table to declare something you're about to do. And the example I used when we started the stream earlier was you're bringing everybody to the table to let them know that you're about to go punch some guy in the face. Sorry to oversimplify this problem, but that you're about to go punch some guy in the face because, he hit you already, right? You're bringing all your boys to the table to talk about something you're about to do. It isn't necessarily just to consult, right? You can already make a decision and use this as an official medium to bring everybody to the table. Now let's talk about Article 5, because that was the first thing everybody wanted to do. Everybody wanted to say, Article 5, let's do it. That means the whole world's going to go to war and nukes are going to start flying and, radioactive shit. And there's That's not how Article 5 works. And we just talked about this. It wasn't too long ago. It might have been 15, 20 minutes ago. But this is the most important thing that I really wanted to cover because I don't have a lot of footage coming out of this. The way Article 5 works, one second, guys. The way Article 5 works, I got a whole sick family. Like my kids are sick, my wife's sick, everybody's sick, they're coughing. I'm the only one that isn't sick. And it's because I eat extra Taco Bell. Just if you're wondering what the secret is to healthy lifestyle, Taco Bell. The way Article 5 works is it removes restrictions for declaring war, essentially, for using military force as a NATO member. Yes, it is known as attack one of us, you're attacking all of us, but that's not really what ends up happening when Article 5 theoretically would get invoked. Last time Article 5 was invoked was September 11th, 2001. Right. What ended up happening is NATO sent ships into, essentially an anti-terror role, and they also allowed NATO planes to fly over American skies. So, as an individual member state, what essentially happens is the restrictions, the gloves get taken off of you, and if you choose to. In your opinion, as a member state, remember, each of the 30 individual member states, if you choose to, you can choose force by military might. That's where Article 11 comes in. Article 11 states that its provisions are carried out by the parties in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. And I gave the example of America. In America, what would need to happen is Congress would need to declare war or authorize, in a limited capacity, some use of force, right? Which is the more likely of the two scenarios if we end up getting down this path, which I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to happen. I honestly don't. Shot in the dark, dartboard, right? So Congress would need to declare war, or essentially authorize the use of limited force. Biden would not have the authority to bypass Congress in that situation. Here's why. Ultimately, he would need to make the argument that the safety and security of U.S. territory and or citizens was being threatened by Russia, which thus far it is not. Checking in on the chat, pausing here. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. We had 1,962 votes. Missile origin. So here's the breakdown. If you guys can't see that, or if you're on mobile, YouTube can be kind of a pain in the ass. 56% of those believe that the missile originated in Russia, 28% in Ukraine, and 16% in other. I'm going to pause right now, and if you put in other, drop in the chat and let me know. Let me know where you think that came from. Article 4 used by Poland. Tomorrow, official info about it. That's what we've covered that twice so far today. I also want to check in on the support while that's happening. Ward Pig Mantis, thanks very much for the $5. Former air defense artillery here. Based on the smoke cloud from this and the fragments, it appears to be an S-300 that failed to acquire a target. May not self-detonate. Interesting. Okay. Belarus, Russia, Turkey. That one's an interesting one. Belarus. I got to slow the chat down here. All right. Black Sea, question mark? Maybe. We would have seen that coming as well. Belarus or Crimea. So if it's Belarus, it's within range theoretically. If this does end up being an S-300 for the S-300 and for Russia to have fired it, if it's the Black Sea, maybe. I don't know. We can go back to Google Earth and we can do some distances there. Again, I'm not an air defense expert. I'm not a missile. I'm not a rocket scientist. So we're starting to get down the path a little bit of speculation. What I really went live to do is show you the location, show you what's known, talk about the articles, how that would be enacted. Romania, North Korea. Okay. Florida, for sure. There's some other support that's come in as well that did miss. Oh no, we're all caught up. Okay. All right, good. So let's go back and let's cover a few more things as well. While all of that's coming in, I wanted to check the map, and we got to go back to Google Earth. And I've got some stuff coming in from the Funker crew as well. It's too late. Too late for that Funker. Funker sent me a suggestion for the thumbnail. Let's talk about some other Ukraine stuff, and then we'll circle back one more time. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, if you're aware of this, and I know we want to be on a serious note because what we're talking about is very serious. But Russia stole a raccoon. Did you know that? Did you know that in a Kherson zoo, Russians stole a raccoon? And Funker wanted this to be, I'm going to burn him here, wanted this to be the thumbnail. And he said I'd have no balls. So now I'm showing you live because he sent that way too late. Now, the rumor mill is, again, another thing that I covered on Twitter, is that Ukraine offered 10 Russian POWs for the return of that baby raccoon. I'm not kidding. There's video. There's all kind of source information on this. There's not a lot of source information on the POW thing. If that's true, though, think about something. I'd like you to just think about that. That's a 10 times valuation of Ukrainian raccoons to Russian POWs. That to Ukraine, that raccoon is worth 10 Russian POWs. Just think about that. Now, I can't validate that rumor mill. Please don't pass that around as like, take it with a grain of salt. It was told to me in 100% honesty. I'm not burning my source on it, but I'm just saying. That's what made that story for me, right? Yeah, I get it. They stole a raccoon. The fact that 10 POWs potentially were offered for its return. Now, there are a couple things that I wanted to talk about as well. That's G20. G19, technically. If I'm not mistaken, it was reported that Russia was either sent home, thrown out, or left. Right? Got kicked out of there. Somebody posited earlier, could this have been essentially retaliation for that? That would be one of the stupidest things. That would be smoke that Russia doesn't want. I've been asked the question before. Dartboard. I've been asked the question before. How would the United States do? That's not going well for Russia. I'm just going to be honest with you. From a conventional perspective, I don't want to dive down the conspiracy hole into theories and, well, they've got more nukes and we've got these many. Who knows the state of their nukes? But I can tell you from a conventional perspective, that's not going well. If Russia purposefully did something like this, all of the discussion about whether Article 5 could be invoked with congressional approval, we wouldn't even be having that conversation right now. I'm willing to bet that we have more information than what is flowing out to the public at the moment. And that leads me to believe that this is either accidental from Russia or accidental from Ukraine. Christopher, thanks for the 10. Sounds like an accurate valuation. Yeah, I'm no numbers guy, but hey. I also want to talk about FTX today. FTX, if you're not familiar, recently filed for bankruptcy. I don't have like any, on-screen help or graphics or anything cool to show you guys for this. But it's something that also broke today. Again, today went to absolute shit. Like within seconds, it felt like. It just, everybody went to bed, woke up. Yes, Ukraine was still invaded. Russia had yet to leave. But then suddenly things started going really downhill. There's been a report that there's some level of involvement between. Sorry, I got I'm still in the Army Reserve, and I had a message from my sergeant major. so I picked up my phone and was like, "Uh-oh, it's something else." There's been a message of or a report relative to FTX of some level of involvement and, quote, investment from Ukraine into FTX, the platform, who its founder, Sam, has known ties to Democrats. We're going to get a little bit into the political realm here. We're not going to get political, but this does touch on political stuff. But because it's Ukraine specific, it's something that I wanted to talk a little bit about. A little bit. You know, I don't want to spend too much on this, but it is relevant right now. So let's go back to the notes that I had for FTX. Ultimately, here's what we know, right? FTX's founder, Sam, funneled the second most amount of money ever to Democrat elections, something to the tune of $38 billion. Ukraine worked with FTX to stand up a cryptocurrency donations page because FTX was a cryptocurrency platform. It kind of makes sense, right? If you want to receive crypto donations, you got to work with a platform that can convert that stuff into fiat, that can convert it into dollars, cash, money that you could. You know what's funny? I went to a store the other day. Cash has like no value anymore. Nobody's accepting cash. So me making the somewhat tongue-in-cheek joke that you want to convert crypto into cash, which you can spend. I can't even spend my cash most places. Oh, sir, we're cashless. Like, this is money. Like, I have money in my hand that says that I can trade it to you for goods and services. Anyway. So Ukraine worked with FTX to essentially have a platform and a website that could receive crypto donations and convert that to fiat that they could then use for, presumably, I don't know what they use, I don't have access to their books, the defense of Ukraine. Somehow, in that, we have connected Ukraine working with FTX for that crypto donation to Ukraine investing in FTX as a platform and funneling money to Democrats. Listen, Ukraine and Democrats have a history of doing some weird stuff. But I don't think you can argue with that. But this is one of those instances where we're once again using jump to conclusion maths that mainstream media is picking up on, and it's leading you down a path by connecting dots where there aren't really dots to connect. All right, that's all I really wanted to cover on that. What we know is essentially what I just told you. Ukraine used FTX to convert crypto donations into fiat. FTX's founder, Sam, donated $38 million to Democrats. That's it. That's what's known. Right? Somebody tried passing me a video to watch because I tweeted about it. I was like, what's going on with this? I need more information. I need to be better informed on it. And somebody tried passing me like a video or something. And there's a reason we use very simple thumbnails. And I mean just an image of what's on the ground with our logo in the bottom left-hand corner. We choose not to use thumbnails with like explosions and faces and stuff. Stop it. Stop. If your thumbnail has that on it, if you're a creator, if you're somebody making content out there on YouTube, wherever it is you're doing, and you're doing that, knock it off. It's ridiculous. Let's jump back into what's happening now. What's happening in Poland? I want to circle back to that, and then we're probably going to close things down. We've already been live for an hour. Trollface Joe, thanks for the $15. Not to be a goof here, but it's all possible that a corrupt Ukrainian cell could have sent that missile into Poland in hopes that it would provoke NATO. Sure, there are an infinite number of possibilities that none of which will we be able to prove until we get more information from actual battle damage assessment experts that are on the ground in Poland. Right? I am 100% in support of Ukraine kicking Russia's ass out of its country. Right? Don't walk onto my land and say this part of yours is now mine. This area of your yard. Get away from me. Don't do that. So I am 100% in support of that. Padre, thanks for the $10. You can use NASA's firm satellites synced with launch time using 120-kilometer range. Firms would be good. Yeah, we could do that. Yep. Thanks for the $10. Legit Pilot, thanks for the $200, man. Wow, we've been very assertive in our stance in defending NATO territory. If Russia is found responsible, whether intentional or not, we'd almost be required to make a stand of some sort. You're absolutely right. Otherwise, our bluff is called and we risk appearing even weaker in future strategic diplomacy. You are absolutely right. And that's why one of the things, it was almost a quick line that I mentioned earlier. One of the things that's going to be very pertinent over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours is identifying intent and origin, right? I don't mean origin of manufacture. We already know what origin of manufacture it was. Poland told us. It's Russian made, just like everything else that's being used in Eastern Europe at the moment. But intent and origin are going to matter very much. Without those two things linked, I think we see less of a response than a lot of people might think we're about to see, right? If Russia, and we're getting into ifs and buts, but I think this is an easy connection for everybody to make. I don't think I'm going to be way off base here. If Russia purposefully sent that missile into Poland, there's going to be a swift and hopefully proportionate response, a measured response, because we would ultimately be walking us closer and closer towards the next global conflict. And when I say global conflict, I mean the next war to end all wars, right? We would be actually in that end game by then. There's some that say that we are now, right? Someone I respect very much, his name's Controlled Pairs. Go follow him on Twitter. Tweeted this out. He said, did we just witness the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand? That's a great question. It is. Now, if this in fact turns out to have been launched from Russia and it was accidental, I think we still see a response. I think we see additional batteries being moved into Poland, even to some extent an argument of those batteries being used to defend the skies of Western Ukraine, something akin to that type of response. I'm I say this a lot. I'm dart to dartboard here. I don't know what I don't know. I'm just a guy, just like you guys, right? We're all in this trying to figure out what's happening together here. And when Russia responds to that response, then we're going to respond, and then they're going to respond, and then we're going to respond, and that continues to escalate, and that's the concern. That's why we need to be careful about what we're doing. It's telling they only summoned the Russian ambassador. This seems like a tragic accident. Well, that's kind of standard practice, right? You summon your ambassador, right? Because he is ultimately speaking for the entire Russian Federation in Poland. He is the representative of Russia. They're not going to summon Putin. That's not how it works. But that ambassador is supposed to unass his chair and go and have that difficult conversation. What do you think, Article 4 or Article 5? We've talked about that a little bit. Article 4, the discussions that are happening tomorrow is what Poland is invoking. Now, Article 4 could very much be a path to Article 5. At this point, it seems like a tragic accident of one, just like somebody else mentioned, of one flavor or another. Whether it originated from Ukraine in an attempt to shoot down a Russian missile, which Zelensky has denied, or it originated from Russia, which an errant missile ended up in Poland. Accidental is the flavor of the day for me. Regardless, something will come out of this. At what level depends on intent and origin. Mountain Man, Mint Man, thanks for becoming or for renewing for 2 months. Appreciate that. Legit Pilot, thanks again for the 200. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah. Ronnie, are you left-handed? Yes, sir. I am left-handed. Well, sort of technically. And in fact, what I want to do to close things out here is I want to start up the Q&A, just like we do every night. Starting that. I am left-handed, sort of, kind of. So I shoot left-handed, I write left-handed, but I throw, box, when I was, and do just about play every sport right-handed. I golf right-handed, all of it. So we're opening up the Q&A for you guys now. That way we can focus more intently on that. And if there's enough desire, I'll go back through the articles, current state of the articles. More super chats, Ronnie, are there? Marcus, thanks for the $4.98. To clarify, what I meant is they haven't summoned the ambassadors of any other nation. I mean, great point. Yeah. So it's still, I think they're still under the assumption right now, until it's proven otherwise, that it originated from Russia. But this goes right back to my ignorance of the situation in its entirety, because we don't, again, and I say this a lot, we don't know what we don't know, but that's a very good point. Greetings from Bangkok. I'm a child. Welcome in Bangkok. Mountain Man, thanks again for the 1506. So should I worry about World War III? No. I mean, everybody should be worried about the worst case scenario to some degree, but this isn't something to go buy up all the toilet paper and milk. I don't know why those are the things. Like, why are those the things that you stock up on? Heavy snowstorm. Okay, go buy extra toilet paper and milk. Get water, canned goods, right? Ways to make a fire. Those are the things you stock up on, not the toilet paper and the milk. Anyway, hi from Poland. Welcome in from Poland. Ronnie, you mute right-handed also. What? All right, I'm going to go back to the Q&A session. Everybody should be able to drop questions in here. I'm going to end that poll and get it out of the way. What if Poland annexes Ukraine? That one's funny. Proxy attack to test the response. Yeah, maybe. Again, I can only speculate at this point, but we're starting to get into, dangerous what ifs, right? And when you do what ifs, what ends up happening is it seeds that, right? It ends up leaving that in the back of somebody's brain, and without the knowledge or information to really answer that question, I'd be afraid of doing that. What we know right now is that it was a missile, at least one, that impacted in Poland that was of Russian origin from a manufacturing standpoint. We also know that it killed 2 people, and it was, for all intents and purposes, kind of in the middle of nowhere. There was an assertion earlier from somebody in the community. I can't validate this. I haven't identified this myself, but I'm just letting you know. It came from you guys, that this location where it impacted was a NATO training site that was used about a week ago. Can you start a Funker Spotify playlist? I don't even know how to do that. I have a Spotify, and I have like a list of liked songs, but I don't know how to make that shareable. In your opinion, what's the possibility of nukes being launched in the near future? In the near future, slim to none. The best use of nukes is mutually assured destruction, right? That's the best. That's why we have so many nukes. Is we'll all be destroyed if we end up using them. I strongly doubt that we're close to that right now. Would an Article 4 or 5 trigger anything? Treaty that just got signed between USA, Australia, and England? Not necessarily, in my mind. No, I think the differentiation of all those different treaties, right? Now, if the United States was attacked, right? If one of those 3 countries was attacked, for example, then you would be able to invoke both of those treaties. You'd be able to say, hey, I've got relationships with you, and I've got relationships with you. Everybody jump in. We're going to go on, the ass whooping train together. That's the way I'd look at that. Reading through, there's a lot of questions here. I don't think I'm going to be able to cover all of them. If Zelensky already said it was Russia, will he take that back, or will he double down? I would hope that he would essentially say, hey, My understanding is that was Russia based on the precedent today, the context today. It's important to take things into the context. We'll turn the music back on. That way I'm not boring you to death. I would hope he would take the context and use that from a foundation's perspective. Hey, they launched over 100 missiles. I assumed one of them skipped past and ended up way off its target. I would hope that he would do that, but I don't know otherwise. What's your max times 10 bench? So times 10 would probably be around 225 or so. Never been a guy for strength on the bench. I could pull 450 though. That I'm proud of. Very proud of that. I was really fat at one time. Like really, really, really fat. I am very proud of the fitness aspect of my life. In fact, for the longest time and still to this day on my other channel, I go by Ronnie Fit. I don't do that because I'm impressing that on anybody else. I'm reminding myself that if I was able to do it, anybody can do it. I was upwards of 260. I'm about 180 now. Ronnie, with your intelligence background, how long will the BDA take? That we should have information inside of 24 hours. If there's one thing from an exploitation perspective, those guys that get put on the ground to do analyses post-blast analyses, they're very good at what they do. The only thing that might delay that is any kind of soil sample analyses that might have to be done. And in the only instance I would see that being necessary, once again, speculating, dartboard, is the difference in payload between an S300 and a KH-55 or KH-101, right? If it's got a different explosive makeup, then any residue that's left over from that would need soil sample analysis. We're getting into an area that I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on. Ronnie, if Russia did drop it in Poland, do you think that we, USA, would step in and help with terrorism in the Middle East and Ukraine in Poland? What? Let me read that again. I feel like I might have been an idiot reading that. If Russia did drop it in Poland, do you think we will step in and help with the terrorism in the Middle East, in Ukraine, and Poland? I don't know that I understand your question, boss. World War II possible? I mean, it happened already. It's like in the 40s. World War III really depends on what the outcome of this investigation is in my mind. I'm oversimplifying that, but yeah. Technically, here's a big question. In the history books, put yourself 50 years from now. You're sitting 50 years from now listening to your grandchildren, right? Your great grandbabies. They're like, Grandpa, Grandma, can you tell me about how World War III started? Are we in that time now? I don't know. That's why, again, and I admire this guy very much. Control pairs. If you're out there, dude, I love your stuff. He asked a really interesting question. Did we just witness Archduke Ferdinand being assassinated? Which, of course, is the impetus to World War I, right? Ronnie, how many pull-ups can you do? Reps in a set? Somewhere between 12 and 14 or so. I do a Murph every Memorial Day, and pull-ups are not my strong suit, man. What do you think about a no-fly zone from Lviv to the Polish border? So that's something that I mentioned earlier. That's something that I talked about is, from a proportionate response perspective, if ultimately this was determined to have originated from Russia, as example, and it's an accident, that's something I think you could end up seeing, right? And that's what I meant by Western Ukraine, Lviv, out to the Polish border, putting something in place that, and again, that could technically be an Article 5 response. So everybody looks at an Article 5 response and they say, well, that means that we're going to have boots on ground. We're going to be fighting Russians. That's not exactly true. That's not how Article 5 works. Article 5, it's up to the member states themselves to determine a proportionate or appropriate response to protect the victim member. So say the United States determines, Well, I think the most proportionate and appropriate response to that is going to be to stand up anti-air batteries that cover the west of Ukraine. Bleeds over that border a little bit, so that this doesn't happen to Poland. Bleeds over that border a little bit, so that this doesn't happen to Poland again. Yeah, that's a possibility. All right, I'm going to switch back to the live chat here. Thanks for sending in your questions, guys. We're starting to wind down here. Are you joining again if World War III breaks out? I'm still in, bro. I'm still a uniformed Army reservist. I go 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. In fact, I just got picked up for warrant officer, so thanks for being a voice of reason in all of the fatalist noise. Hey, I'm just a guy. We're a community of people a lot like me that just want questions, and not all of us are. None of us have the answers to the questions that we want right now, or the questions that we have. Right? There are a lot of unknowns, especially in an instance like this. Right? I'm gonna read you guys something. When I first came across the report, I immediately jumped into the Funker chat, and I was like, guys, this is what's happening. I added everybody. I was like, hey guys, a middle just hit Poland, and Josh, you guys should know Josh from the site. He was like, what are you talking about? And I said, oh, sorry, missile. And he was like, that's a much bigger fucking problem than a middle, Ronnie. But I was typing so fast because I was trying to find answers, not necessarily for the stream tonight, just from my own curiosity, right? This stream is meant to connect with the community. It's meant to bring us together around situations. Under most circumstances, it's footage. The last time we had a stream like this was February 24th, where we connected. We didn't have a lot of answers. We were just trying to figure shit out. February 24th, 2022. The same type of stream happened when we watched the firefight at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We watched a live firefight here happen at a nuclear power plant. It's wild. But we're here to connect. How likely is it that they will just bury this? Very. Next. Yeah. Mosen, thanks very much for the 5. Before every war, massive amounts of cash starts flowing about the markets. Watch the markets tonight. Tomorrow, historically the biggest marker. That's great. John, thank you for the 20. Thanks for all you do while trying to keep us informed. Throw some Pantera on sometime. I wish I could, boss. Clutchy, I'm checking in on all of your messages now. Clutchy, one of our mods. Oh, that one's good. Thanks, Clutchy. So, what we're going to look at here is a 150-kilometer circle around the impact area. So where, if it is an S-300, could it have originated from? Let's check that out. This one's good, Clutch. Thanks, buddy. Check it out. God. That is 150 kilometers max range. The closest would be Belarus. Moldova is not even in distance. The Black Sea is not in distance. So if it is determined to be an S-300, it originated inside this circle. We went through most of those, boss. Got it. Thank you, buddy. We're going to be bringing up Biden here. See what he's got to say. Started at 2 minutes 40 in. Let me just make sure I'm looking at the right thing here. Here we go. Coming up for you guys now. I'm going to go full screen on it.
Thanks for being here. As you saw, I just met with the leaders of NATO and the G7. and talk about the latest events in Europe. And I briefed them on my discussions with President Duda of Poland, as well as NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg. And we agreed to support Poland's investigation into the explosion in rural Poland near the Ukrainian border. And I'm going to make sure we figure out exactly what happened. Our empathy simply goes out to apparently 2 people were killed. And then we're going to collectively determine our next step as we investigate and proceed. There was total unanimity among the folks at the table. And we also discussed the latest series of Russian missile attacks, which are continuing the brutality and inhumanity that they've demonstrated throughout this war against Ukrainian cities and civilian infrastructures. And they've been totally unconscionable, what they're doing. Totally unconscionable. And the moment when the world had come together at the G20 to urge de-escalation, Russia continues to, has chosen to escalate in Ukraine while we're meeting. I mean, there were scores and scores of attacks, missile attacks into western Ukraine. We support Ukraine fully in this moment, and we have since the start of this conflict. We're going to continue to do whatever it takes to give them the capacity to defend themselves.
Mr. President, is it too early to say whether this missile was fired from Russia?
There is preliminary information that contests that. I don't want to say that till we completely investigate, but it is. It's unlikely in the minds of the trajectory that it was fired from Russia, but we'll see. We'll see.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Mr. President, is Poland suggested invoking Article 4 or 5 from NATO, sir?
The consensus is we're going to probably have a meeting of the ambassadors. So that looks like we're going to go to next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys.
You heard him. So let's break that down for a second. All right. Is that definitive? No. No, it's not. But what he stated very specifically, probably before anybody wanted him to, is what it sounded like, is that the preliminary analysis thus far has been that it is unlikely from a trajectory perspective that the missile originated from Russia. Turn this back on. I'm going to check in on the chat. I'm going to check in on the support that's coming across. Thank you guys very much for it. John, thanks again for the $20. B Knight, thank you for the $5. If you listen carefully, you can hear thousands of hussar wings being welded, painted, and crafted in everything that resembles cavalry. Thanks for the $5. Don Gonzo, thanks for the $5. Could it have been an attempt to frame Russia to bring the West into the war? There are too many questions to be able to answer that, my man. The information that we have as of now, which has changed, kind of drastically over the last 3 minutes, is that the West thus far believes that from a trajectory perspective, according to what Biden just said, it's unlikely that the missile originated from Russia. Is it definitive? No. He did state, and words do matter, that more information would hopefully follow. Get yourself a bean and cheese burrito. I love burritos. Don't tease me. Thanks for the $5, Tyler. Excuse me. Wyatt, thank you for the $5. Does World War III mean the end of the world? Proportionate scale. Depends. If somehow we make it through an entire war all the way to the treaty phase and don't end up, moving into nuclear conflict, that'd be interesting, right? All conventional. Maybe mutually assured destruction. Marcus, thanks for the $4.98. Thanks for all the support, guys. Appreciate it. Padre, thanks for the $9.99. Your mom G, thanks for the 81 cents. All right, guys, we're going to close it out. We're going to have another stream tomorrow night where we'll be picking this back up and talking about anything that's released between now and ultimately the stream, which will take place at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard right here. We'll be following that up on the other channel. Probably not, doing anything but just kicking back, discussing, having a beer. I don't think we'll be streaming over there today, but you guys are welcome to join me tomorrow right back here where we should have quite a bit more information to talk about. I'm out of here. Stay informed.